it's such a norm here. It's something that people do. So one example that I love to tell is early on in Justin TV, like 4 years ago, I hired this guy who was, he graduated from high school, he dropped out of college, and he was just like working as a security guard at Ben & Jerry's. But he was like, we were trying to hire a community manager, and he came in, and he had all these ideas. I thought, he's pretty talented, but we hired someone else. But I said, you can come in and be like this kind of assistant in the company. And so he was basically like our office manager for over a year. And one of his jobs was to like order the lunch for Justin TV, right? That's like kind of a dead-end job. But he was learning a lot about what was going on, what we were doing in the company, how we were operating, kind of some good habits and a lot of bad ones. And I was like, we're not paying you very much, because I'm cheap. You should go and like do this ordering of lunch for a couple of my friends' companies that are in the same area, because you're calling anyways, you might as well do it. And so he started doing that. I introduced him to a few people who are like friends of mine who started companies, and he comes back a month later and he's like, I quit. It's like, I am gonna create a company that orders lunch for startups. And I was very proud of him because he was like, that's much better than being the guy who orders lunch at once. So he went on and recruited, he grinded out, he bootstrapped his company, recruited a team, went through Y Combinator, raised $1 million. He had 22 people now. I've been invested in his company. They serve, I think, I don't want to talk numbers, but they serve like hundreds of thousands of lunches every year, basically. And he makes money on every lunch, right? So like, that's incredible, right? Like that doesn't happen in other places. Like the guy was 4 years ago was working at Ben & Jerry's. Like, that's awesome. Now he has a startup that's like extremely, like it's gonna be very successful. It's like, and it's growing every month. And I think that when you're in an environment, the best way to start something or to do anything, I think, is to go hang out and be around the people who are doing that, right? If you want to be a great golf player, just go find the best golf players you can and be friends with them and just hang out with them all the time, and eventually it's going to rub off and you're going to go play with them, you're going to get better. If you want to start a startup, everybody here, you can throw a rock and hit someone who's starting a startup. Right? Don't throw a rock at me, but that end of the row. So this is a great place because there's some sort of magic in the water here that gets people thinking about starting things and trying new things, and that's really exciting. I don't think that exists anywhere else.
Yeah, I have just a couple more things to add to that. I think joining a startup that you respect and you really like is a great way to learn how to do startups. The other thing is, I think Silicon Valley has the highest density of people who have done startups and have also invested in startups. And so if you have an idea or something that you're exploring, it's probably very easy for you to find somebody who knows about starting companies they can talk to and just ask out for a cup of coffee. One surprising thing that we were just earlier talking about is that people are very willing to get a cup of coffee with you, like in this town. There are other towns that are a little bit more reserved, but I think if you approach people and want to discuss something, people are usually fairly open to that. So I would definitely take advantage of that. And it's not just a one-way street. Don't feel like you're bothering people, because a lot of times people that are more experienced want to hear about new ideas, see what is kind of going on the street. Like, especially if you're a little bit older, you might be less in tune with the startup scene today. So I would encourage you to find people who have experience doing businesses and kind of get a bounce the idea off them and get a gauge for where you might stand.
I would like to add one more thing. We talk a lot about the startup, but sometimes you can pursue some kind of startup idea, and the startup idea doesn't have to be your own, right? Because when I joined Apple Computer, I was like, inspired by the visions that you can build a personal computer so everyone can be your best. I want to do everything I could to get into the door, learn the art of make software and computer experience. And when I had my own startup, good technology, and I was recruited to Amazon.com at the time, no one knew. But I just was taken by the vision of Jeff Bezos, right? And it's something I can subscribe myself to. And I say, well, God, I hate shopping. I would love to sit in my living rooms in my underwear and shop and buy all the Christmas stuff without finding traffic 24 hours a day and search for the bad deal and then just listen to what I say, God, I subscribe to this vision. I want to be a part of that. And then if you find some company like that in the early stage, when you jump in to be a part of the team, then you learn, you know, that startup experience without taking a lot of risk, but then you have a lot of learning of how the great one make it, and some of the pitfall. So therefore, it doesn't have to be your idea. Sometimes it doesn't have to be from the ground up. You know, you can join one of his gig and learn how to do it. And like you say, serious on my own gig. But it's just that I think that's another perspective that you need to take into it. If you don't want to launch first, you can get into some idea, you line up behind it, and you would have a great experience as well.
Okay, that's great. So I think we've heard that you know, doing a startup can start with having a great idea. You know, one thing that we also read about or hear about is that you know, investors look for things like, you know, what kind of product are you building, what market are you serving, you know, what kind of team do you have. How important are those elements to getting a startup off the ground? And is one more important than the other? Peter, I'd like to hear what you think about that.
Sure. You know, I'll share the perspective of being in this privileged position where I get to speak with entrepreneurs every day. And I think we started with the right frame. You know, when do you start a startup? It's when you've identified some disruptive market opportunity that you can go and attack in a unique way and in a winning way. And so with that frame, what are the ingredients that come together? What are the resources you need to kind of bring all that to bear? It is team. It is probably some capital to get started. It's a whole lot of just raw horsepower. How much can you put out? But those are sort of the core ingredients that you see in every single successful startup. But as your vision starts to grow, as your idea starts to build, there are other ways to know that your idea is really working. And that's one of the other benefits of not only getting to make the initial investment, but really partner with entrepreneurs through the whole process, because you get to learn, okay, this is how the market's really opening up. These are the successful patterns that can be used. And here's a way to share this back out. This refers back to sort of the way Silicon Valley really does share everything we learn, share it back out with the community. So, you know, I think that's one of the things that attracted me to Bessemer as a venture firm, and one that I think they hold up their promise for sure is sort of sharing not only how do you get my idea up and off the ground, but how do I scale and really make it into that big vision that I woke up with that morning.
John, do you have anything to add to
Sure.
that?
So I think we look at very similar things. You know, you think about as you grow up as an individual, you know, you may start out wanting to be a fireman, and then you end up wanting to become an astronaut, and then you end up wanting to become a nuclear physicist. I don't know. Everyone's ambitions change, as well as every startup's ambitions change if they survive long enough. So at different points in a startup, when they come look for us for capital, we evaluate them on different metrics. At least I do and my partners do. I think the main thing is always the team. I always go back to the whole resource philosophy is, does this person have what it takes to build what he wants to build? And do we believe that what he wants to build is something worth building? And then more importantly, you know, just from a finance perspective, I need to see a growth story. I need to see that even if he achieves what he wants to achieve, because entrepreneurs sometimes, they may think really, really big, but they don't tell you as an investor that they're thinking that big, because it's kind of scary, right? To try to sell someone on a vision that is so far removed maybe from reality. But I want to see that, you know, if he achieves what he tells us he wants to achieve, can he break out into more growth categories as far as revenue is concerned? Because at the end of the day, we make our money, or we help entrepreneurs make their money when the company gets acquired, or when it goes public, when it becomes independent. And if we look at the IPO route, it's always around the street. You know, how do they respond to it? And the street always cares about growth story. So you need to be a category defining leader. You need to have something that's so unique. You need to be either doing something so well that nobody else can do. And then you have this amazing ability to move into other revenue streams, because you have the ability to make mistakes when you're that far ahead. That's why I like in the e-commerce space companies that have gross margins over, say, 70%, because you can make mistakes when that happens. All different examples in different verticals, so we do look at very different things, but I think the key things are always around the people. And then, you know, every firm is different. We like to make sure that when an entrepreneur takes capital from us, we actually can help. I think it's an offset thing here in the Valley. It's value-added capital. I think, you know, entrepreneurs still build the companies, and we say that a lot. And as far as being able to augment the resource pool that they can pull up from, are we the best partner for them? Because if we're not, we'd rather be active or, you know, not really be an investor at all. That's it. And, you know, if you get the chance to invest in Facebook, you just sit back, I'll do that too. So.